is love in this place. Whenever two or more of us gathered in His name, I found the world is all the same. There is.
Good night.
Good evening. Good night.
Good morning, wherever you are joining from. This is another Level Up Your Marriage, the first one for 2026. And this is Paul and Raquel Blake coming to you from the island of Jamaica. And we are indeed happy to be able to host this program on all things marriage. 2026 was a good year for us. 2025, sorry. 2025 was a good year for us. We had several discussions on marriage, and the feedback was very, very tremendous. And we want to continue in 2026 and beyond, doing more discussions on marriage and family. Welcome, Raquel.
Thank you. Welcome, Paul, and welcome to those joining us from near and far. So as you said, this is the first one for 2026, and we are looking forward to an interactive, inspiring evening. You know, the topic, the power of praying couples, and this is
power of praying couples.
Yes, and this is one of my favorite topics. You know, praying is important. Doing it as couple, that's very important too. And so we thought that it was only fitting to begin 2026 with the topic, the power of praying couples.
Power of praying couples. Yes, and as you rightly said, Raquel, that all things begin with prayer. And, prayer is the foundation of all things. So as long as we are people of God, that communication between ourselves and God is important, and more so in marriage.
Yes.
There is power in prayer. You know, as we talk about the power of praying couples, I remember the prayer of Jabez. You know, that prayer that Jabez prayed, asking God to increase his territory,
Yes.
and to bless him with abundance,
And that he will do no
and that he will do no harm
harm.
and do no evil. And that's a good reminder to us, and especially, looking at it in the context of marriage, that we should be praying, asking God to be with our marriages, asking God to give us direction. Because the truth is, we can't do it by ourselves. We can't do it alone. We need the Almighty God in all areas of our lives to make sure that we are doing right.
That's right.
So,
It's fundamental.
yes, it is. It is.
To a strong Christian marriage, and I would say it's fundamental to all marriages, especially, well, those who believe in prayer.
That's right. True. Yeah, and when marriage really thrives, when both partners, and we can look at it here from a Christian context, when both partners recognize that God really is the foundation of their relationship. And if God is the foundation of our relationship, then it also means that we should invite God into all areas of our relationships. We take a lot of time praying in other areas of our lives, and there's nothing wrong with that, because it is something that we must do. We ask God to bless us. We ask God to take care of us when we are sick, and to relieve us from pain. And we pray and we ask God to guide our children, and all of these areas. I don't think we often hear a lot about praying couples. Couples praying for the success of their marriage. And so this is something that we want to explore tonight, and encourage our couples, our married couples, especially those, whether you're just starting out or you have been married for a very long time, that you keep that connection, to keep God in the center of our relationships as we navigate the different challenges of life together.
Oh yes.
Yeah. because life is full of challenges, don't it?
Life is full of challenges, and marriage is full of challenges,
That's
and
right.
everything. Life is about sunshine and rain, and
Yes, that
so
is true. That is
um,
true.
the God who instituted marriage, then of course I strongly believe that, and He should be at the center of it in terms
Yes.
of our prayers and in terms of so prayer keeps God at the center,
Yes.
and it helps in so many different ways, which we will talk about. We'll get into the discussion as we go along, but marriage keeps prayer keeps God at the center.
Yes, keeps God at the
It
center.
helps with shaping our attitude, because when we pray to God, we we don't want to be praying in anger. We don't
Yes.
want to be praying with bitterness and jealousy, and so it helps in shaping attitudes and sustaining love in every season of marriage.
That's right. Yeah, and I look at it also, Raquel, that praying as a couple is also a sign of our surrendered will, because
True.
we can't pray believing that we know everything. When we approach God in prayer, and outside of the marital relationship, when we approach God in prayer, we have to approach God with a surrendered will. And when we take it into marriage, though, also it carries the same idea that the reason why we are seeking this communication with God is that we are trying to empty ourselves of our own selfish desires, our own um, bad habits, and all of that, surrendering it all to God and asking Him to give us the direction. This is why we say that prayer is the foundation, right? The center of everything. And I like what Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse 12 says, that a cord of three strands is
Not
not
quickly
quickly
broken.
broken, right? And we always talk about the fact that marriage really involves three personalities: wives, husbands, and God, right? And God
He's at
is
the center
is
of it
at the
all.
center, right? At the head.
Yes.
He is the one that gives us all the direction. He's the one that gives us all the information that we need in order to make our relationship successful. And so, that I think that scripture is very, very, very important for us to understand that in a Christian context, if we don't have God as that, I wouldn't even want to say third party, but it's the first party. Right? If we don't have God at the center, at the very foundation, then we are not going to be very successful in our journey. So, looking forward to having a discussion with you, Raquel. Right? Looking forward to having this
Well,
discussion.
one of the things that I will hasten to say, and I just want to give all praise and honor to God. Um, we have been well. This year been 19 years since we are married,
Yes,
since
19
our
years.
wedding day. And so every single year, every single day, every single week, it is prayer that keeps our marriage.
Yes.
I pray for our marriage every day, or as most days as I can remember,
Hmm.
um, and that is what is keeping us. That's one of the main thing that is keeping us, keeping our marriage, along with the different things that we do,
Hmm.
and the fact that we have a desire to please God, and we have a desire to follow the principles that He has instituted for marriage, because
Yes.
marriage has its principles, has its tenets, has its goals. There's a mission for marriage, that when God instituted marriage. And so um, when we keep God at the center of our marriage, then it helps couples, it helps individuals to navigate the challenges together, with wisdom, grace, and a shared sense of purpose.
Yeah. True.
Because
True.
we know that when couples pray together, great things happen.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
And as you say that, Raquel, which is really the first point that we are making, looking at why praying together matters,
Yes.
and we want to break it down to the fact that praying is not just a religious activity, right? It is more than an activity. It
Yes.
is really about the relationship with our relationship that is connected to God, right? So that it is that relational connector, right? Just like you have a socket and an extension.
Yes.
The socket by itself is not useful, and the extension by itself is not useful either.
Yes.
But when extension and socket come together, it produces electricity,
Yes.
and that is when it becomes useful.
True.
And the same idea in terms of our relationship with God, in terms of as a couple, we can try to do it alone, and we might be successful at some things. But when God comes into the picture, I believe that we have a greater um, you know gre- success rate in terms of, God has to be that person that connects both of us. Because again, as we look at marriage in most of our discussions, one of the factors that break down marital relationships revolves around self, right? Selfishness thing, and one of the things that praying does, that in relationship, and as we said before, that in order to get that connection with God, you have to give up of yourself,
Yes.
right? You have to give up of your will, right? And so even sometimes when we approach prayer as couples, sometimes, yes, we ought to pray to be better spouses, but how much time do we spend praying for our spouse in terms of tapping into what they need, right? Rather than spending time praying to God that, to make me a better husband, which is also important. And I'm not discounting that that is not important. But sometimes I can pray that Raquel, has the strength to persevere with me. Because we all know that we are not easy to live with. We're not easy to, yeah. And I think that is what prayer does. It allows you to empty yourself of your will, and allow God to take the center. It's like God is we are the audience, and God is the performer.
Right. And then, as you say, when you are praying for me and I'm praying for you, then you don't have to be worried that nobody's praying for you, because
That's
I'm
right.
praying for you, you're praying for me, we're praying for each other, and of course, God is working it out.
Yeah.
And so it is. As I said, this is an exciting topic for me, because this is at the core of my life in terms of prayer. Those who know me well will know that without that, I'm always in that mode of praying for Paul, praying for my son, praying for my parents, praying for my siblings, praying for my church family, praying for
Yes, true.
strangers. Prayer is that important, and I'm actually doing 100 days of prayer um this year, something that I do annually. And so it is very important, and it makes such a difference in our lives as
Yes.
couples and in our lives as individuals. So um I like the part that he says prayer is a relationship connector.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
fosters closeness,
Closeness.
understanding,
Yes.
and it strengthens the marriage beyond words.
Shared purpose, because to pray you must have shared purpose. Yes, we can be praying for different things, but those things must overlap at some point in time,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
So and I guess also, Raquel, when you look at that in terms of our prayer lives, it means that prayer demands that a conversation takes place.
True.
Because I believe that we ought to know what we are praying for.
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely. And sometimes wives pray for their husband that, oh Lord, please change my husband.
But we,
But we also
and husbands do it. Please change my wife. And
and the prayer should also say,
please
please
change
change me.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's important. God in His wisdom knows that while I'm praying for you to be changed, He knows that, okay, Raquel, there's something that you need to work on too. And
Exactly.
okay, Paul, there's
Exactly.
something that you need to
And
work on
that
too.
that connects well with the emptying of self. Giving up my will, because again, And we find it a lot in counseling couples also, especially when they are having marital issues. It's always, I wanted to change my spouse, right?
Yeah.
Because my spouse is giving me problem,
Yeah.
and oftentimes people don't take a step back and look at what is their contribution to the breakdown of this relationship. Because even in a case where one person is at fault, and it may be that person's action that has caused the breakdown of the relationship, I also believe that there is enough blame to go around, right? So that is important. So when we approach prayer, we have to approach prayer in a way that is not selfish and self-centered,
True.
right? It's very important. So it fosters closeness, understanding, shared purpose, and it helps to strengthen the marriage beyond words. Right? It's not just about the words that you say. As James puts it well, that when James says faith without works is dead, right? We could we could pray from now until eternity. If we are not willing to do the work, prayers are not effective. And I think that is one of the things that we must learn as couples. Prayer is very important, and we will never discount the effectiveness of prayer, but prayer also comes with work. So when we pray for whatever changes we want in our relationship, whatever blessing of abundance we want in our relationship, we must also be prepared to do the work that is required. As God is
Yes.
going to give us some work to do.
Like it or not.
Like it or not, yeah.
Like it or not.
So what let us break it down. What is prayer? What is prayer?
Um, I, we would say everybody knows what is prayer, right?
Mhm.
But I guess it's an intentional communication with God,
Yes,
right?
intentional communication. I like that.
Yes.
So in other words, it is not just uttering some words that we think that God wants to hear, right? Sometimes we get into this space in our prayer lives where we are so bent on trying to find the right words to appeal to God.
Mhm.
When prayer is not really about that. Prayer is more about the relationship, the intentional relationship that we are trying to establish with God, right? God doesn't. I don't think that God is worried about us praying in broken English, or whether we are praying in the right language, or whatever. What God desires is that there is intentional communication. So that is really what prayer is. It is speaking to God, listening to His guidance, and really aligning our hearts with God's will.
That's
Right?
right.
One of the things again, Raquel, that in terms of couples praying and praying for the relationship to be better, is that your heart has to be in the right place.
True. That's true.
Right? Your
That's true.
heart has to be in the right place, and that may be easier said than done, Raquel. That may be easier said than done, because different things can be happening in a relationship, right? And some of those things don't necessarily leave us with very good feelings about our spouses.
Mhm.
But if prayer is going to be beneficial to us, we have to pay close attention to the condition of our hearts. And as I said, this is easier said than
You know,
done.
that's correct. When you said that, I remember the verse. Is it in Peter that says that uh the husband should deal with his wife
As the weaker vessel.
as a weaker
Yeah.
vessel, and also being not to be harsh
But
with
not,
his
yeah,
wife
true.
because his prayer might be hindered.
That's right.
You know,
Yes, that's true. That's true.
so it's we talk about our hearts being ready, our hearts being in the right place, because if the prayer or even the connection between husband and wife
Hmm.
is so important that the element of prayer where you mentioned earlier about listening for his guidance, because prayer is not only about us speaking to God,
Hmm.
but He also speaks to us.
Yeah,
I'm not
true.
talking about that you're gonna hear a voice from heaven. I'm talking about where he has left His word, He has left the Bible, and of course through different circumstances,
Hmm.
you might say, okay, you're getting confirmation that that this is what the Lord wants for me to do.
Yes.
But the idea is that as we speak to God, then we should also pause. We should also take time to listen.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Take
true.
time to hear from Him through His Word, or through probably circumstances that would serve as confirmation
Yes.
as to the request or to the nature of the
And
prayer.
I'll add to that, be willing to do what he says.
True.
Because the truth is, sometimes in our prayer lives, and you spoke about God speaking to us through His Word, that His Word is going to give us certain directions that oftentimes will not be very comfortable for us. But if we want our relationships to work, it means that we are going to have to put aside how we feel and allow God to work in us. I am reminded, Raquel, of the book of Hosea,
Yes.
with Hosea the prophet, and how Hosea's life was turned upside down because of his wife.
Yes.
Wife, the Bible likened her unto somebody who had prostitute themselves. Right? She had gone outside of the marriage and had children outside of the marriage, and God instructed Hosea to take her back.
Mhm.
And not only did He instruct him to take her back, but God also told him that he should treat her as a wife and treat her as the wife of his youth.
Yes.
And that must have been a hard tablet for Hosea to swallow, right? I mean, why is God telling me that I must take back the woman who had done this great injustice to me? But God said to him that I want you to treat her as how I would treat Israel.
Yes.
Israel, the people I love, and that's a really, really interesting point. And the only way that Hosea could do that, Raquel, was he had to empty himself of his feelings.
He couldn't do that on his own.
He could not do that on his own.
True.
Right? He had to get direction and instruction from God.
And help.
Right? And so it is important that we understand that in this avenue of prayer, that will help to strengthen our relationships. We have to get over self, right? We have to get over self. Jeremiah chapter 33 verse 3 says, "Call to me, and I will answer you, and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know." And that is a promise that God is giving to Israel if they just reach out to Him. That relationship that He had established with them.
Yes.
And even persons maybe on this platform this evening, and you're going through something in your marriage and you think that it is done and over with. Based on what the Word of God says, that there is hope.
Yes.
There is hope.
True.
But we have to be willing to give it over to Him and allow Him to work it out. Right? Whenever I counsel couples, especially those who are on the verge of dissolving their marriages, one of the things I tell them is that there is nothing that God can fix if we are willing.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah, both persons have to be
Yes, there's nothing that God cannot fix if
Or
we
if-
are not if we are willing.
willing. Yes. Might not have the same percentage of
Yeah.
willingness, but at least there must be
But
some inclination.
even if it's a little bit of willingness, right?
Yes, then God can work with it.
Yes, man. I have told people you can come into a session and you don't feel that you even want to continue, but you have a glimmer of hope. And I believe that God can work with that, give that glimmer of hope that is there, right? And which is why our communication with God is so important in terms of our relationships, right? So prayer, Raquel, is inviting God into our daily marital life, right? Our decisions or our challenges.
Yes.
Inviting God into that space. I would call it that sacred space because He's the one that makes it sacred.
Yes.
Right? It is inviting God into that sacred space. And in these times, Raquel, we probably need God more than ever.
Every single moment.
Especially
Every
in
single
our
moment.
relationships, we need God. We need to hear from Him, right? Isn't it so?
Yes, yes, yes. And we can testify in our own lives. We can testify in the life of other couples, other friends that we have, that that prayer transformed ordinary routines
Yes.
into opportunities for unity, for growth, for shared spiritual purpose. And it binds us together. And we should never underestimate the power of prayer,
Yeah.
in keeping the glue in your
Yes.
marriage.
Yes.
you know
I just said that, Raquel. Over the years, I have interacted with several couples who have been married for a long time. And when you ask them the question, what is it that keeps your marriage together? Do you know that 90% of them says pray, pray, prayer?
that's good.
I'm just I'm it's just
That
I'm
is
just
just
thinking about it as it just came up to me. Most of the times, you ask couples, what is it that keeps their marriage together? It begins with prayer,
yes.
right? People tell you that they spend time for the husbands, they spend time praying for the wives and all that. So this prayer thing, yeah,
This prayer thing
yeah, man. This
is
prayer
is a
is
thing.
a real thing, right? It's not just something that is we constantly be flippant, or it is real stuff.
It is a thing. And I just want to pause here to say that sometimes, of a fact, sometimes um, one person might not be as excited to pray
Hmm.
as with their partner, or he might not be excited to pray with his wife. But the idea is that don't be discouraged. Even that is something to pray about.
Yeah, true, true.
Because both persons might not necessarily be on the same page at the same time.
Yes, true. That's
And
true.
so we definitely want to put that out, because sometimes you have couples in circumstances where the husband might not be willing to engage in regular prayer with his wife for whatever reason. And you might have wives. I think sometimes, many times, is the husband don't want to pray with the wife, but that is maybe me generalizing. But that is a reality. And so, but that is also a prayer point.
Yeah,
And
true.
so, when the wife prays for her husband, even in circumstances like that, you will see God at work. And
True.
over time, because it's not something that is forced,
Yeah, true.
couples praying together, it will be nice. It is great. But sometimes, and we have to we want to put that part of the reality in the conversation, because sometimes one partner or another might not be on the same page at a particular time for might be a particular reason. But that is a point that is now something that you can pray about to help in the process.
Mm. I would want to add to that, to Raquel. Just as you said it, prayer takes patience,
Yes.
right? It requires us to be patient with each other and learning how to meet each other where we are, right?
True.
And I think that sometimes also it means that for for that patience to work, we also have to not learn to meet people where they are, and to also temper our own expectations,
Yes.
right?
Correct.
Because I think that sometimes even in our prayer lives, we often project our expectations upon our spouses,
True.
and we sometimes expect changes to happen. And it goes right back to what I said before. These unrealistic expectations and so forth comes up when we think of just self alone,
True.
right?
Yeah.
Which is why the emptying of self is important,
Necessary. Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
If it becomes about me and what I think I want and the changes I think I need to see, then I am not going to be patient, right? I am going to always want to rush the process.
True.
But when I acknowledge that God is that is giving direction,
Yes.
then it no longer becomes about me. It becomes about how God is going to work through me or work through my spouse.
Yes. Yes, and that's why we have to, as the Bible verse says, stand still
Stand still,
and see
right?
God and
Yes,
see how God works.
and
So,
see how and how. Yeah, and that is so important. And going back to something that you said, to segue into individual prayer versus couples prayer,
okay.
right? Because um, both of them are important. I think that we are also, we ought to pray in our individual lives for
True.
our personal growth. We have to, confess and ask God to forgive us. We have to seek God's guidance, and also be very dependent on Him, and that is something that we should be doing in our personal lives. But there's also the prayer couples, and that idea of coming together, right? Uh,
That's what we're advocating
yes,
for. That's
that
what
is
we're
what we are
encouraging.
advocating.
Yes.
And I want to say this, Raquel, that, and I think you alluded to it first, that one of the things in for couples in forming a healthy prayer life is for us also to understand our individual personalities. Again, we I find, and this is something that I find also, because you said it, that I think wives tend to be more open to praying together than most husbands. And this in no way suggests that husbands don't pray,
No.
right? But I find that wives tend to be a lot more open to praying together than many husbands. And I think a lot of it has to do with our different personalities.
Definitely. Mhm.
And I said that to say this. Starting out might not feel very comfortable, especially for men. But one of the things that we know about habits, that if we continue to do it, it becomes a part
Part
of
of us.
us, right?
Yes.
And as many areas of our lives, when we first start out, it feels uncomfortable, it feels unnatural, right? When you start it first, it feels like, boy, you don't want to do it a second time.
Mhm.
But when you get into the groove, right? When
Right.
you get into the groove of doing it consistently,
Yes.
it becomes a part of you. And I believe the same thing applies to prayer,
True.
right? That it might not feel the most comfortable thing to do, but if you commit to it and realize the kind of potential that it has for change, then you will stick with it.
Stick with it.
That's right.
Stick with it because as we talk about so many advantages of doing it, and of course exercising patience, giving each other support,
Hmm.
because sometimes in the prayer, so at some point there comes a point of vulnerability
Yes, true,
where,
true.
so that might be part of some of the reasons why one partner or another might not be
Hmm.
so willing.
Yes,
But as vulnerability helps to, causes growth,
yes,
causes deepens the love, deepens the understanding. And so with patience, with kindness, with an open mindset, it
yes,
gets better. It gets better after a while.
yes. James says in James 5, verse
Verse
16,
16.
that the prayer of a righteous man
Avail it much.
availeth much.
And
And I want to move man out of it and put couples. Right? Right.
yes, true.
The prayers of righteous couples avail it much. And over the years, my experience as a Christian, my experience as a counselor, I am yet to come across a couple that seriously engages in prayer and see prayer as part of their marriage that does not do well, right? Um, tried and proven, and tried, tested and proven,
Proven.
right? And so it shows you that the scriptures are not wrong. Marriages,
Yes.
And if we want God to be the builder of our homes and our marriages, it means that we have to make sure that we maintain that connection with Him, right? So, if you are on tonight, remember that you can engage with us. You can type a message in the chat. You can ask a question. You can make a comment. So feel free. We are not here to talk the whole time. We want to engage you.
Yes, we'd love to
Right? We
hear from
want to
you.
hear what you have to say, because you may say something that we are not even thinking about. Right? We are here to really learn from one another. So if you want to engage with us, please type something in the chat, and we'll respond in time. Prayer, Raquel, and unity in marriage. Prayer and unity in marriage. Amos, I think it's Amos 3, verse 3. It says, "Can two walk together unless they agree?"
Yes.
Right, and that is actually one of the chapters in our book. It's not rocket science, right?
Yes.
That text is one that we use for an entire chapter. Can two walk together unless they agree? And so the idea that is given here is that prayer takes singleness of mind, right? We have to be thinking along the same line. One person cannot be going in one direction and the other person is going in the other direction.
Yes. So,
Yes.
I like what you have. I like what as we are preparing. It says that prayer moves from me versus you
Mm-hmm.
to us.
To us, yes.
Before God.
Yes, that's right. To us before
God.
Yeah, I like that. I'm probably going to post it somewhere.
Yes.
Right. It is us before God, and that's important. That's important. It's interesting that prayer does so much for us, Raquel. And again, I'm going to go back to what I began with at the first part. None of this can happen unless we empty ourselves. Because when we talk about prayer and unity, when we are praying together, we are looking at um, aligning ourselves, aligning our heart with and attitudes with God.
Yes, and but how question? How easy is it for sometimes it's easy to be selfish. I think you said that recently.
Yes, man, it
that
is
it's
easy.
easy to be selfish.
Yeah.
So how will you encourage somebody, I suppose, who has a selfish person approach to things sometimes,
Mhm.
or sometimes it's just caught up in him or herself. How will you encourage that person now
Yeah.
to shift
I'll-
from self to as I said, move from me versus you to us before God? So because in order to do that, you have to move the focus from self to the couple.
You know which song comes to mind as I said that a while ago? That little song that we sing at church with children. He's still working on me.
Okay.
If ever you recognize that as a spouse that you are in that position where you are more prone to think of yourself, your own desires, I think one of the things that we have to do is to ask God to work on us. We have to ask God to soften our hearts and change our attitudes.
Yes.
Right?
And,
And again, this is where
the prayer comes in.
prayer comes in.
Yes.
And the total reliance, total dependence on God to do the change. Because we can't change by ourselves. Right? We
True.
can't change as a matter of fact, if we could do it all by ourselves, then we don't need God in the picture.
True.
Right? But we can't do it by ourselves. So prayer, Raquel, invites unity. It reduces the habit, or the defense, the prone we are prone to be defensive, the tendency to be defensive at times, and we need to create space for grace. Yeah. That statement is so important.
True.
That one of the things that makes prayer so effective in the lives of spouses is learning how to give grace. The grace that God has shown us. And who better to show us grace, Raquel, than God? Who better to show us what grace is than the grace that God has given to us?
Right. When we certainly didn't deserve it.
When we certainly didn't deserve it. And if God can extend that grace to us, then who are we not to extend that same grace to our spouses?
The one who is next to us.
Yes.
One who. Oh, remember that we are one. So sometimes when spouses forget to extend grace to the other, then you're really doing it to yourself too.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
as coming together to be moving from 2 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
It says that in the same way that I would want grace,
Mm-hmm.
that I need grace.
That's I need grace.
I need
Yes,
grace.
true.
You will need it too.
That's right. True. That is true. That is so true. And I like that grace. That idea of extending grace. And we have had the discussion, Raquel, of how much we can step on each other's toes in our relationship. And when we learn how to give grace, it makes such a difference. But that grace can only come with us understanding the kind of connection that we share with God.
Yes.
Right? And understanding that if God gives me grace, then I need also to extend that grace towards my spouse, right?
So, we said earlier about that intentionality, the deliberate effort.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes. So while couples are praying and while God is working, we need to extend grace and we continue to have an open mindset. Continue to have
Yeah, very true.
The disposition of of grace, the disposition of He's still working on me, He's still working on you, and together
yes,
we'll get there.
Yes.
Together we'll get there.
Another important point, Raquel, in what prayer does for us is that prayer reduces conflict because it shifts focus from self to God.
We have been talking about it.
It shifts
from the selfishness.
Yes, right. Conflict, and that is it. A part of the reason why we have conflict escalating in relationships so much is that a lot of times it becomes about self.
Yes.
I must be right because you have wronged me.
I must win. I
must win. I must come out looking good. Mm-hmm. In the argument, right? I must be respected and all of that. So, and what that does, it causes the conflict to continue, and it causes it to grow and escalate, and eventually we're not even married again, right? But when we understand what prayer does and how God works in that communication, then we move it from pleasing ourselves to pleasing God. Because in this case, Raquel, it is not about even pleasing my spouse. It is first pleasing God.
Yes, and then I guess the point that is coming to my mind at this time is that, remember that they're on the same side.
They're on the same yes.
They're on the same side.
Yes, that's true. Even conflict. Even conflict. We're on the same side.
Even in
right?
conflict, because the conflict is an indication that something is wrong. There's some misunderstanding. Yes. There's something is not right.
We might have different perspectives, but we are actually trying to get to the same place.
Yes.
And that is important.
And so I want to remind couples that even especially during conflict, remember that you're on the same side.
Yes.
And so if you give yourself enough time to either to breathe that prayer, to say whisper that prayer, and to calm down, then there is the outcome. A resolution is nearer than this.
Exactly. And when you understand that it is not me versus you.
Yes.
But as you rightly said before, it is us before God. then we look at conflicts in a totally different way, right? We conflicts. I mean, we have done several discussions and include conflict in it, and conflict will happen. Conflict is not something that we are ever going to escape in relationships. But when we know and acknowledge that it's not a me win thing or you win thing, right? It is us understanding that at the heart of all of this is God wanting us to work it out for His honor and glory. Because at the end of it, everything's going to come back to, does it honor and glorify God? Does it please Him? Yeah, I remember the old cliche. Sometimes I don't like it, but it is
It's relevant
appropriate
at this
here.
time.
What would Jesus do?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
In when prayer, one of the things that prayer will always instruct us is what would Jesus do in this situation? When I'm praying to God, I'm asking God, what would you have me do?
Right. Even when you're feeling, even in the conflict.
Even in the conflict, what would God have me do? And what God would have you do is what He would do.
Right. Right. And so sometimes, well, so the point is that even before conflict, and that's why prayer is important to be done regularly, to be done together
True.
as often as possible, because it sets you up for success.
That's right. True.
Because you don't want to wait until the conflict come or a situation come to arises before you think about what will Jesus do.
Yeah. What?
The
Yeah.
mindset.
True.
That should be the regular mindset.
So in other words, I hear you saying that as couples we should be cultivating a prayerful mindset. It's something that you know it doesn't happen. You don't pick it up by the wayside.
No.
and you
No.
you definitely can't go to the supermarket and buy it.
No,
It's something that you have to cultivate.
Yes.
Right?
You have to be-
And we spoke about the discomfort before, that when you're starting out, it might not feel the most comfortable thing to do, but the more you do it and it becomes a part of your life, you will see the changes that happen over time.
Yes.
But you have to start somewhere.
Yes, and
You have to start somewhere.
Definitely. So if you're feeling awkward or there's some inadequacy about it, and it doesn't, I think you said it, alluded to it. It doesn't have to be a long prayer.
No, it doesn't.
It can be, Lord, help us.
It
Lord,
doesn't.
come into our marriage.
Yes.
Help us on this journey.
Yeah.
It can be stuff like that. Lord, protect our home. So it starts small, start short, and you'll get better.
And I'd also add to that, Raquel, that
Sorry.
in terms of how the couples look at it, we must both see it as our responsibility, right? It's not Raquel's responsibility alone. It's not Paul's responsibility alone. It is our responsibility.
True.
Right? And it's our responsibility to make sure that we are doing the things that God expects us to do. When I preach at church, you will always hear me say about prayer that don't ask God for things that you're not prepared to do. Right?
True.
Right. So even in marriage, I think the same thing works. You might be an impatient person with your husband or wife, and you're asking God to give you more patience to deal with your spouse. How is God going to give you more patience?
Put you in some certain circumstances.
He's going to put you in a position where your patience is going to be tested by your spouse, and you have to exercise patience, right? So be careful what you ask for. You're asking God to make you a more loving person, or even asking your spouse, asking God to make your spouse more loving towards you. How is that going to happen?
You're going to have some run-ins.
You see, many times, Raquel, we ask God for these things, but we don't stop to think about what it costs for these things to happen.
How He's going to prune us.
Right?
How He's going to refine us.
How is God going to refine us? How He's going to prune us for these very same things that we are asking Him to help us with. Right? So don't ask for what you're not prepared to work for, because even in and that's why I've always said to persons that prayer is not magic, right? Prayer is not God working magic, right? God is not a Harry Potter that's going to wave a magic wand, and everything changes in an instant. When we engage God in prayer, and in this context of our relationships, we must be prepared to do some work, right? And hard work,
Yes.
because the quality or the quantity of work that we that is going to be demanded from us is going to be dependent on what is happening in the marriage, right? For some, it, it may be easier for some than others,
True.
but depending on what is happening in a marriage, you have to plan to do some work, right? Because it's not going to change overnight.
Yeah. It's as our book, as you know, our book says, the book that we wrote recently that you have been hearing about on the platform, or you have been seeing on our Level Up Your Marriage page, our Facebook page. It's not rocket science, but there are complexities
Yes.
that we are simplifying for
Yes,
you.
simplifying the complexities of marriage.
Yes, and so it takes work.
It takes work.
Although it's not
work.
rocket science, it's the implication in the name of the book.
Mhm.
There are some complexities. There's something that
Yeah, that's true.
there's something that will require
That's
effort
true. Right.
on your part to make your marriage successful, to make your life successful. It's all of it. All of life is about doing
Yes,
something
that's true.
to achieve the results you want.
Yes, that's true. As we get ready to wrap up, common barriers to praying together, and we actually some of them.
Yes.
We had mentioned some of them before. Feeling awkward, or spiritually inadequate. Many times we suffer from that. Fear of vulnerability, unresolved conflict, misunderstanding prayer as a performance instead of a conversation, which I think many times many of us we are guilty of that. Encouragement to pray honestly and not perfectly. God is not interested in perfect prayers.
Yes.
God is interested in honest prayers.
Yes, and I also just want to talk about the fact that you mentioned the part about feeling of vulnerability,
Mhm.
or unresolved conflict. We're encouraged to resolve our conflicts before the sun goes
Yes,
down.
that's
Don't
right.
allow
True.
the sun to go
True.
down
True.
on your wrath.
True.
We're mindful that everything might not be resolved
Then and there, but
there.
you
But
must
the
start.
disposition or that you
Yeah.
want to get it started,
Yeah.
you want to approach God from a good place, in a good
Yes.
position.
Even as we engage in prayer, couples, we ought to start at a place where we're asking God that if we, because prayers can be hindered by our attitudes,
Yes.
right? And
Correct.
if we approach God with a bad attitude, then He ain't gonna listen.
That's right.
He ain't gonna respond. So it means that we have to check our attitudes before we go before
prayer.
God's throne in prayer.
Yeah.
And Raquel, if our marriages are important to us, if our relationships are important to us, then I believe that we are going to do what it takes to get a response from God. And that is important.
Definitely. And as we close to wrapping up, we want to put out a challenge.
Yeah,
I mean,
always put out a challenge.
Yes, it's not hard. So this week we want to encourage you to commit to praying together each day, even if it is brief and simple.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Trust that God honors your willingness and will use the shared time to strengthen your unity and to deepen your connection.
Yes,
There's no
true.
harm.
That's true.
It will only do you good. So one of the other challenge that we want to put out is that it's important that because God has created marriage, He is the foundation of it all, and so we want you to keep God at we at the center. When you look at my ring, I always say this to Paul that my ring, my wedding ring is of such that the engagement ring fits right in the middle. So we always talk about that on one side I'm on one side and God is in the middle, and when we pray as couples, it works. It has worked in our marriage. It continues to work in our marriage. And so it will work for you, but you have to give it a chance. You have to take the challenge. And
Yes.
we'd like to hear from you. We want to encourage you. We are praying for your marriage. We are praying for the success of your marriage. And we also ask that you continue to pray for us as well, because indeed we need the help of the Lord to continue to have successful
That's right.
marriages.
That's right. This has been another level up. And one of the things we want to encourage our audience to do, please share level up with other persons.
Yes,
Right?
definitely.
Share it on your pages, share it on Instagram, share it on Facebook, share it on YouTube, wherever.
Share it at work.
Share it at work, share level up, because
Yes.
we believe in this ministry, and we believe that marriages can be better. Right? Marriages, God holds marriage so special to himself. He's the one that designed it, and he likened it as a bride, the bride of Christ. And so it is important to him. And so we believe that, you know, we can have better marriages. And this is one of the reasons why Raquel and I came together and decided that we are going to host this program, and we want to grow it bigger and better. We want to be doing some great things in 2026. And
Definitely.
that book that we wrote together, we are going to write more. And please also, our book, it's not rocket science, simplifying the complexities of marriage. Please go on Amazon and get your copy. It's available on Amazon. Buy a copy and share it with somebody else, whatever format you want to get it in. Get the word out, because we want to change marriages one marriage at a time. This has been Level Up Your Marriage with Paul and Raquel Blake, and we look forward to having another program next month, the first Friday in February. We will have another program. We have the program on the first and third Fridays of every month, and so we look forward to another program. God bless.
And we just want to also take the time to thank and to big up Brother Dexter and Sister Giselle for the great work that they're doing and for the support that they continue to give us. Blessings always. See you next time.
God bless.
They can never take the love out in this place.